Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A, we answer fans' questions. A good amount to talk about in today's show, which is good. We're coming up on the draft pretty soon, which is crazy. It's going to be I would say pretty exciting. So let's start with this first news story. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Calais Campbell reunites with the Arizona Cardinals, which sucks. Apparently, according to a bunch of different people from the beat writers who write for the Dolphins had the third best offer on the table when it came to Calais Campbell. I don't know how much I actually believe that. He ended up signing a $5 million contract with the Cardinals. It sounded like the Dolphins really wanted him. It sucks that year was wasted on Calais Campbell because he played so well for the Dolphins. And I was one of those people who was against him coming to Miami. I was like, I don't know how much this guy's really going to help. And then he ended up having a really, really good season. Not just on the field, but off the field. Everybody talks about how great of a leader he is and how much of an impact he made on the team. So it sucks seeing him go somewhere else. But I'm just, and again, I think the worst part of it all is how much of a wasted season that was last year with him. One of the worst seasons, and I've said this before, but if we had to rank, these are the worst seasons, the last 20 Dolphins years, that's not low on the list. It's pretty high up there. So this is what it is. Unfortunate news, but not that big of a deal. So this next news story also comes from Pro Football Rumors. This is a really interesting draft one. The Dolphins have been, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins have been among the team's scouting quarterbacks. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald reporting that the team has met with, scouted, or evaluated Texas' Quinn Ewers, Louisville's Tyler Schwall, Alabama's Jalen Milroe, Oregon's Dylan Gabriel, and Syracuse's Kyle McCord. Jackson, what's his name? Jackson Dart, and no Shedeur Sanders, which has also been rumored for whatever reason for the Dolphins. But what do those guys have? All of those guys have in common. They're late round guys. The only guy that I like on that list is Jalen Milroe. I'm not a Quinn Ewers guy. I like Dylan Gabriel a little bit, so I can't say I'm not a fan of him. He wouldn't be the worst out of the group, but the one that has the most talent and who could be developed and honestly could be used, even though he'll probably be a third-string quarterback for the Dolphins, is Jalen Milroe. He can actually get on the field his rookie season and have really cool red zone packages, and we could utilize his gifts, which he's physically very gifted. And he's got a really strong arm, so future-wise, it's a great draft pick because his ceiling is very high, and you could use him in a lot of creative ways, similar to what the Saints did with Taysom Hill. I'm not saying it's a 1-for-1, but you could definitely do that. Have some red zone packages for Jalen Milroe. So there's a lot of things you could do with that draft pick. Quinn Ewers is whatever. I'm not a huge fan of his. Not a huge fan of Kyle McCord either. Dylan Gabriel is mobile, quick release. I know people don't necessarily love his arm strength, but I think he's a good player. He made a lot of really big throws and in big moments in his college career. Plus, if Dylan Gabriel was on Ohio State, I think they would have done better. And I just think he's a better player than some of these other. I know a lot of people like Quinn Ewers, but I just don't really get it. Not mobile at all, and wasn't the best pocket passer in the world. And honestly, I think he wasn't even the best quarterback on his own team. So, yeah. But yeah, Jalen Milroe, the fact that they've met with him and scouted him, according to Barry Jackson, obviously all four of these guys. That's a very interesting report. And there have been a lot of rumors about the Shedeur Sanders thing. I really hope those aren't true. Uh, Interesting that Jackson Dart wasn't on this list, because I know that, he's rumored to be at least a second round pick, but maybe that's not what they're looking for. Maybe they're looking for a little bit later in the draft. But yeah, Jalen Monroe would be, I think, a very good pick, especially if they were able to get him in the 4th or 3rd round. That's great value. Where do we want to go? We talked about Calais Campbell. We talked about the quarterbacks. Okay. The biggest news of probably of the week. Dolphins, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins left tackle Teron Armstead retires. According to some of these articles, he had a knee replacement, which is crazy, and I guess played through that, which is wild. I think all of us knew this was going to happen. It almost happened last year. Played, when he was on the field, he was great. And that's what the Dolphins knew they were going to get from him coming out of New Orleans. Like, okay, he's probably not going to play. And that was the downside of it, is like he's going to miss games. But for the most part, when he was on the field, he was great. And that's better than a lot of Dolphins free agents that you can talk about. But, if this, in a weird way, it's just like, where do the Dolphins go from here? A lot of people, and I brought this up in last week's podcast, that just don't watch Dolphins football are like, oh, well, now the Dolphins are definitely going to take a tackle, because nobody knows who Patrick Paul is. So I really am confident that Patrick Paul is the answer to that position. And if they draft Campbell out of LSU, they could play him at tackle, I guess. But I would rather them. And again, this is, out of everybody that we could draft at that spot, that's who I'm really gunning for. Hope that he falls to them and that they can pick him, or that they will pick him. So yeah, I think the Dolphins have their tackle of the future already in Patrick Paul. I'm a big believer in his. I think he played very well when he had to play. So yeah, this next news story will probably, it kicks me in the balls every time I read it, because it's been brought up so many times. But Dolphins are high on safety Malachi Starks. And this comes from Pro Football Rumors as well. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald reports the team thinks highly of Starks, an indication he will receive consideration for the 13th overall pick. Jackson notes no pre-draft visit has been lined up yet, but he adds General Manager Chris Grier was in attendance at Georgia's Pro Day. Information gleaned from that event will help inform the Dolphins' decision with their top selection. And I just want to say this before I share my thoughts on this. Barry Jackson is the only person doing his job as a beat writer for the Dolphins. I swear. And another thing I want to bring up, him mentioning that they had no visits with Starks. I believe they didn't have any visits with Chop Robinson either, and they still picked him. So that doesn't mean anything. They could still pick him. I've had a feeling, even before the rumors started, that the Dolphins were going to pick him. I don't know what it is about Georgia players and Chris Grier, and he just, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe we haven't picked that many Georgia players over the years. Because when I started thinking about it, I was like, we really haven't. It's not that many. Maybe it has something to do with Rashad Jones. I don't know. I can't explain the gut feeling that I have that we're going to pick him. Him as a player, he's great. He's a really good player. And which is fine. Like, if you're going to take a play, coming out of college, I like him way more than I did Chop. And Chop turned out great. But I really like him as a player. He's really fun to watch. I don't know how well or fast he's going to hit the ground running. Safeties usually take a year to get to that point. So he's gonna, he plays a very tough mental, physical position where he has a lot of responsibilities, whether it's run gaps, checks, stuff he's got to do in coverage. So that's a lot of rookie safety has to do. But I think for the future, it's a really good pick too. So I don't mind the Dolphins picking him. It's just like, I really want Will Campbell. That's really what it comes down to. I need to watch the other tight ends, or not the tight ends, excuse me, the other tackles, so I can get a really good vibe of who I would want second, or guard, I guess. But they're not going to take a guard this high. Chris Greer I think everybody knows that there's no way they're going to take. But I guess if they take Campbell, they would play him at guard. I don't know. Campbell's a pipe dream. All right. This is most likely who the Dolphins are going to pick, is Malachi Starks. Not only from everything that we've heard since the Combine points to him, like every article rumored about the Dolphins draft points to him. So I'm not mad at this at all. I know a lot of people really love him. I really like him too. So it's not a bad pick. It's just not the position that I would want. He's going to be a great player, which is good. But he's just not the position that I want. That doesn't mean the Dolphins can't address their interior offensive line problems in the second round. So that's good. And I need to do more research on what's going on with the interior in terms of guards to get a little bit more in depth on that. So this, honestly, to get a super talented safety, which they desperately need secondary players, especially versatile ones who can play man coverage, and he can do that. He's very gifted athletically, which is great. So he's a toolbox guy. Plus, you match him up with Weaver, who's a phenomenal teacher and coach. So there's a lot going for this pick, which is good. It's a need. And one thing I will say about Starks, and which is a good thing that Javon Holland didn't have, is that his safeties, that he's either, whether he plays beside Melifonwu or Davis from the Jets, those are two pretty good safeties that he's going to be playing next to, who are still relative. I mean, Davis is still 28. I don't remember how old I hope I'm saying it. I hope I'm not getting him mixed up with Obi Melifonwu, who was a Patriots safety. But anyway, it's a great pick, and it does fill a need. So we'll see. It seems like they covered their bases. I know a lot of people love some of the safeties and corners at the top of the draft. So maybe that's why the Dolphins signed 2 safeties, just in case it doesn't work out. A lot of Dolphins fans love McMorris, the undrafted rookie out of Cal last year. A lot of people really love him, but we didn't really get to see anything. Like, we saw good preseason stuff. That was it. We never saw much more than that. So it's, to bank everything on that's a little crazy. So not mad at the pick. I just wish we would get one more offensive lineman, a quality one, and we can still do that in the second round. So I'm not mad at the Starks pick at all. I think here's who I hope we get at that pick. Will Johnson, love him to death. Great corner. Fills a huge need for the Dolphins. Starks, I actually love. I think he would be last on the list just because of the position he plays. And then number 1, without a doubt, is Campbell out of LSU. Not even close. That's who I would really want. There's some other players that I like, but those I think are the big 3. And Genty he's a great player. I just don't like the pick. And I know there's been some receiver talk, but I don't really see why. But those would be my big 3. And one thing I want to say about Starks, I think as a playmaker, I think he has more potential than Holland did coming out of the draft, which is, I think, a good thing. Because God bless Javon Holland, and it's not all his fault, but he did not get a lot of turnovers throughout his career, especially interceptions. Like he got some clutch fumbles, like the one against Jacksonville. I think he forced that one. I'm pretty sure he forced a fumble against Trevor and Etienne. Names. I don't know what's going on with me in names lately. Etienne, the running back from Clemson. I don't remember his name. I don't know why his first name is escaping me. But yeah, it's that, and then the interception he had against Pittsburgh that honestly ended up amounting to nothing. And what's another great Javon Holland turn? Oh, that, and then the Jets pick 6. I think the Jets pick 6 is probably the highlight of his, that and the Jacksonville forced fumble. I think that's probably as far as that goes. But he didn't have a lot of turnovers. But I think Starks has more of an upside as a playmaker when it comes to turnovers. Plus, he has the benefit of being drafted and going into a situation where he's got a great defensive coordinator, and I think a better culture overall than what Holland had to go through early on in his career, and better veteran safeties in that room. So, which I think is a good thing. So, that's about it. I think next episode we'll do a mock draft. There's a couple more positions that there's no way the Dolphins would take a tight end, but I think a lot of people love the Penn State tight end, but I don't think they would ever take. And by the way, I forgot Mike Gesicki. He went to Penn State, but I don't think they'd go down that road again. But what was it? Even though he's a completely different player. But what was I gonna say before? Oh, Tyreek Hill posted a video of him making jokes about being traded. Who cares? One thing I will say that the only observation, I didn't even watch the video, I just saw a thumbnail of it, but he's lost a lot of muscle and weight, which I thought was interesting. Maybe that's on purpose, to get a little bit lighter, which I think is a great thing, because and we've talked about this, but he did not look good last year. I think one of the things that really, he's never had the best hands, but I think the thing that was really alarming is he took a huge step down when it came to after the catch stuff. And when I saw that he's like, oh, he's lost weight, maybe it's going to be a little bit better for him to get this, some of that speed back, that burst that we really didn't see last year. It was he looked hurt. He didn't look like himself. So out of all the things in that video that I saw, I think, maybe he's got more motivation this year. I hope. So, he's becoming a migraine. We've talked about that many times, but he is literally just a migraine. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Definitely do a mock draft. And some good news. I mean, Starks isn't, I think, with the if there was a vote, I think Dolphins would lean toward the offensive line in the first round, like most Dolphins fans. But he's still a great player, and teaming him up with a really good front seven, that I think our defensive line, especially on the edge, is really good. Should be pretty fun if that ends up lining up. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.